Greetings and good mornings. Do you ever find yourself to be afraid of this, or perhaps even this? Well, if you are, then I might have an unfortunate diagnosis for you. Probably afraid of the Mind Flayer. Now, to ask yourself who is the Mind Flayer, I don't really think I need to spend so much time doing that. It's one of the icons of Dungeons & Dragons. Similar to the Beholder, it's right up there with one of the brand faces. It's one of the main antagonistic forces of Baldur's Gate 3. You see references to it in pulp culture, Stranger Things, Doctor Who with You, Bloodborne's smattered with all Cthulhian nightmare eldritch horrors. They're all over there. That is to say, these scientific squid boys who are overall showing a facet of existential dread are well known. I have a YouTube short that might point you in the right direction if you want a very brief, less than a minute long summary of what the Mind Flayer's got going on, and if you stick around to the end, there's numerous amounts of sources. I point you in the direction of videos who go very in-depth, people who create this sort of content going really into the Forgotten Realms and all that kind of good stuff, and then people who just develop it and make it their own as well. So, here at Magpie Industries, we create our own things. We create what we love and from what we love. And just as you guys saw recently with what I did with Giants, I want to take up the next monster, the next project. And to do that, I need to introduce you the Myselvour. These creatures represent the embittered destruction of their higher beings being exiled to the depths of the unknown sea. You're still going to be your brain eaters, your parasites infecting and evolving. You're going to be conquerors from a world stolen from them. They're certainly an antagonistic force, psionic by nature. They infiltrate societies, sleeper agents, wake them up throughout the society to slowly take it over. Think The Reach from DC Comics. But I kind of want to take a different approach. Obviously, with the Giants, we went through this FNGM's zipper method to go back and forth telling you a story while you did it, and with this one, I want to go back to a method more my own. I want to explain how would you use the Myselvour in your world, and how I plan on using them in my world through the Magpie's world building method. Yes, that's right. We're taking it all the way back to the first video. I'll break it down chunk by chunk and kind of illustrate to you guys the Myselvour's existence, its ambitions, drives, thought processes, and all of that through the Magpie's world building method. So, let's start it off. M is for military. This one's pretty obvious. A Myselvour wanting control of the military, wanting influence of the military, pretty straightforward. Everyone's gonna want the military under their heels so they can turn it inward, turn it against itself, crush the society underneath, as well as anything that can take the minds and memories of military leaders, of strategists, obviously makes itself more dangerous, helps itself evolve and become a bigger threat. Up next, A is for art. This is one that I would twist a bit more narratively. I'd let it be your icebreaker to make your party aware of the Myselvour. Perhaps a famous artist released a confusing and abstract piece, kind of alluding to this awakened state of their mind or their infection. Perhaps it's their unconscious mind wanting to fight against the parasites, screaming for help in a way it no longer possesses the free will to be able to. Perhaps it's a way for the Myselvour hive to be able to get propaganda out there and help really devolve the party into worrying about the reach of this enemy and the influence of this enemy to the popular culture. Let this be your icebreaker, let it be the talk of the town, let it be the way your party finds out about this threat. Is it a threat to the kingdom? Is it a threat to a small town? Is it a threat to the world? Let this be the exposure, let this be the rising moment. So G is for geography, and this one's going to be a bit of a talk, because the geography of the kingdom can matter wherever they're going, wherever they're attacking, but I more so want to talk about how the Myselvour influences the environment. And for the most part, you guys can blame a friend of mine, Cas. They sort of got me onto thinking differently about the Mind Flayers. I asked them interesting inspirations that I might be able to use. They gave me a couple different ideas, one of which was termites, and a couple nature documentaries later, after learning a healthy amount about termites, I kind of found two generalized areas for termites that interest me. You have your mound building termites, typically what you see in Africa on farms, see what is pictured currently. And then you have your dry wood eating termites, which is what I'm more familiar with and more aware of living in the States. Overall, one is adored for enriching the grounds for farmers, and the other one has about 10,000 Google image searches from pest control companies that show you how to kill them, what to watch out for, and all that good stuff. All of that to be said, for my Mind Flayer Reimagined, I want to play with the duality of that. It's very often that you can see with Mind Flayers this confliction of humanity, this back and forth nature, obviously overarching, you have that hive mind, that elder brain that wants to just consume knowledge in a very dogged brainiac sort of sense, but you sometimes deal with this conflicting human coming through. You still have the mind, body, spirit coming through. It's something I could very easily see being played, obviously evil, but also for the betterment of society and culture and all that good stuff. So I will be making a part 2, probably even a part 3, but again, catch up with me on the back end of this and I'll kind of give you the scope for the rest of it. However, that second set, the culture, the species identity that is the other side of the mirror to the Myselvours, that's going to be part 2, so I won't talk too much on them. Myselvours are obviously going to be your more aggressive, your more vengeful conqueror to their elder being. They're the ones that are going to stick the parasites into people forcefully through Ceremorphosis and really try and take over and conquer, invade, destroy. They feel this ownership. With all of that, I'm going to have to reference a bit more to the dry wood termite in order to articulate the destructive nature. They find abandoned, sewers, buildings to sort of set up their hives in those areas, begin to erode and rot out the kingdom, the society itself. They need breeding tanks for their parasites. They need a place for their mother brain. No, that's copyrighted. Elder brain? Too close to the source material. Perhaps the Myselforge? The Myzelder? You let me know what you think I should name this thing. I'll try and decide by part 3 of the series as to what sticks. P is for politics. So politics is pretty self-explanatory. Similar to military, this is where influence is found. An upcoming political figure might be an easy victim or for a persuasive Myselvour, beginning the process of Ceremorphosis in order to gain an edge on an established political enemy. This is probably one of the most desirable places for a hatchling or a half-infected individual with psionic powers to begin to establish themselves for the hive, really getting their teeth in and taking over from the inside. I is for intelligence. And similar to some of the other ones, this is where I kind of pivot away, because obviously, yes, the Myselvours are hungering for intelligence. However, I want you guys to use the intelligence of a kingdom to be the party's ally. Need a place to have for the party to get rumors on who's might infected? Why not a tavern? Why not a connected network of informants? This is what I want the Myselvour hive to worry about. This is what I want them to be on edge on. Worried about being found out. Is there a guild of connected mages or a thieves guild, some other network of information in the underground that can work to counter the invasion, that can try and unravel the hive's actions and ambitions, something that the party can maybe find as an unlikely ally. E is for economics. This one's a double-edged sword because what is the economy of a Myselvour? Well, that's easy. Brains. I don't know if I want to end up with them eating the whole brains. It almost seems more tragic to me for them to take the memories and thoughts from whatever being they're consuming, not the physical brain itself, but instead maybe the identity, the sum of the person, leaving behind a still living husk of an individual. Still working out the details on how I want to run that. For spiritual, S is for spiritual, I'm going to have to leave off and say this is something, again, I want to talk on later part as I create the Digant that will be this thing's progenitor, the god of the Myselvours, as it were. Some Dagon Cthulhu looking guy that is currently trapped on the bottom of the ocean and real bitter about it. Okay, so that takes care of the Magpie's world building approach to describing these things, and hopefully you liked it. So you might be asking yourself, what's next for our guys? It's a pretty good start to going over Mind Flayers, but I was thinking part 2 would be over the other end of the spectrum, the ones that are a bit more hospitable and friendly to the rest of the creation races and the everlastings. I think I want to do the third part in being the other aberrations, going over their relation and their dynamic with these new races, because I kind of want to interconnect them and make them a fluid image, not just disparate fears and anxieties of the cosmos and space and the sea and all of the other Lovecraftian subject matters. And with that third part, I'll probably go over whatever my elder brain ends up being. I have some visions for it now, however, I don't have a name pinned in and I don't have exactly what kind of effect and what would make it different really established in a concrete sense, because I'd need it to be similar enough between the two for them to still be the same species, but different enough in how they approach and deal with things to create such cultural divides. In that third part, I obviously would also talk on our progenitor of the species, so expect that one to be a bit more of a group showing. So, if you want to learn more about mind flayers, as I promised at the start, there's a bunch of different resources. I'm gonna shout out some friends first, because that's what we do. We uplift and support our friends. The Welsh GM should have a video uploaded by the time of my upload, having his next part in Bestiary about mind flayers. He does an excellent job going over them in a much more sleek, concise method, and then really goes into what you can use them for. Outside of that, Cas, who's entirely to blame for this multi-video project, has an excellent Ceremorphosis product on DriveThruRPG. No sponsorship, again, I'm just plugging my friend here. Link in the description, go check it out. And additionally, I can't not shout out Jack from Of Gods and Game Masters, who time and time again will share with me countless resources as I have my hyperfixations on Blue Sky, and he has one that he shared over Aberrations as a whole as he weaves them together and talks on their different identities and all of that, which was a huge inspiration with me wanting to relate the Aberrations together to a shared image. Outside of them, check out our usuals. AJ Pickett, Mr. Rex, Runesmith, Ed Greenwood, all have videos on Mind Flayers. It's not a short list about content on Mind Flayers. They're one of the creatures of all time as far as specifically Dungeons and Dragons, but even TTRPGs for fantasy and sci-fi and all that good stuff. So as the parasite begins to worm its way into your inner brain, just remember, Magpie responsive. Thanks, and thanks again.